Are you pricing your community too low or too high? Let's find out. I'm Carrie Melissa Jones, and I've helped hundreds of business owners and enterprise organizations invest in communities that support their entire business's success. By the end of this video, you'll know what we teach all of our clients about selecting an appropriate pricing strategy. We help arm them with this information so they feel confident right out the gate. This means that pricing is not going to stand in the way of them launching or optimizing the communities that they've built. Quick disclaimer here, if you have not already figured out what your community is going to be all about, who it's going to be for, it's time to figure that out first before you jump right into pricing. Luckily, I have a free workshop that will walk you through how to design meaningful community experiences and programs. So you can grab that at the link in this YouTube video description and then come back here and learn even more about pricing. First, let me explain that when we're talking about building communities, there are several unique selling propositions that people respond to when thinking about joining a paid membership community. These are helping them to move even faster or accelerating their growth and progress, helping them find their people if they can't find them anywhere else and are feeling isolated, giving them access to exclusive resources and relationships that they couldn't find anywhere else, or finding structure and framework and a guide through whatever process they might be going through, whether that's a hobby that they're pursuing or something professionally growth-oriented. But what do you actually charge for these value propositions? That's the big question. If you're feeling insecure about your pricing strategy for your online community, that's fine. You are not alone. Pricing is a tricky topic when it comes to community building, but we're going to tackle it right here in this video. The first key question to ask to determine whether you're building a hobby or professional community is, will this community help my client, my customer, actually grow their revenue or save them time and money in this process? This can be a tricky question to answer because it's often not a direct calculation for our clients and customers. Instead, it's something like one of my clients who ran a community for homeschooling parents. Now, these are parents who are very, very busy, and they were creating a community and being part of a community that provided them with all kinds of resources to better equip them to homeschool their children. For them, they're not going to be generating revenue from this, but they are going to be saving a ton of time and energy in this work. And so for them, this isn't a hobby. It's something that they're actually using professionally in order to help to save them time, save their children time and effort, and to create better outcomes for themselves. So you can position this as an actual professional community. Another question to consider when you're thinking about whether you have a hobby or professional community is to ask your customers, where is the budget going to come from for this community? What I mean by that is when they're thinking about spending and becoming a part of your community, what budget are they probably taking this from personally or professionally? Is it something like they're taking from their wellness budget, their gym membership budget? Are they taking this from professional development budget? If you can understand that, you can understand how and where you might fit into their larger financial picture. If you have no idea what the answer to this question is, that's totally fine. Most people are not nosy and they don't ask these questions, but you can ask these questions. And this is something that we have done in our own work, is ask our clients, where would you be pulling budget from to join our community? And how much budget do you have? And so we learned what the ceiling is for that, generally speaking, what the average budget is for professional development. And that's where we learned how to price our program appropriately. Next, consider what your competitors are charging and where you want to fit in within that larger landscape. So who are you, quote unquote, competing against, and what are they charging? Really think outside the box here. You're not just necessarily competing against other membership communities or other online communities. You might also be competing against technology. You might be competing against online courses, against gym memberships or wellness subscriptions, whatever that might be. Look at the full landscape. How are people solving the problem that you solve right now, and what are they charging for that? Now, how does the answer to this question affect your pricing? This is not about copy pasting. You are not going to find out what other people are charging and then just copy their pricing strategy. No, no, no. Instead, what it's going to help you do is to understand where you would like to fit within this larger landscape of offerings that are out there for your ideal customer. People make this mistake all the time. They think because other communities that are out there only charge $5 a month, they can only charge $5 a month. So, for example, I was working with an organization a few years back, and they were charging just $5 per month for this hobby community that they were running. But when I worked with the client, we got to understand that what she was offering was nothing like the other hobby communities that were out there. She was offering private classes with experts, oftentimes working with professionals who were moving up into the professional tier of this hobby. And so the pricing strategy that other people were employing made no sense for her and actually were making her play small. So we had two options at this point. We can either raise her price or we can lower what she's offering. In her case, we actually took a combined strategy. So yes, we raised the overall baseline price, but we also lowered what she was offering at that baseline price, did not add anything to it, but also did not remove anything, and then offered a higher tier and raised her price even more for those who are moving toward that more professional area of the hobby. So it doesn't mean that there's a one size fits all approach here, but understanding your competitors, how they're pricing, and then understanding how you would like to be perceived in the larger landscape is so critical to suggesting what your own pricing should be. The third pricing consideration is to think about what else you offer as a business owner. How is this community going to fit in with your other offerings? What's crucial to understand here is that you do not want your membership community to start to cannibalize your other offerings. So, for example, if you offer a really high-touch mastermind program, if you offer really high-touch consulting services, you do not want this membership community to mean that people are not going to take advantage of those other offers. So in that case, it can actually make a lot of sense to charge much less for your membership community because it's a way of getting people into your sphere, into your pipeline, and then working them up into maybe higher engagements, mastermind groups, working really closely with you on consulting or coaching work. But this is an entry point. And so in that case, it might make sense to start low and then have different tiers of pricing for your different programs. And your online community should fit in typically at one of the lower tiers of that to get as many people in the door as possible. Now, I have a question for you. Now that you understand that this community is part of all the other things that you potentially could be offering as a business owner, how are you thinking about pricing your community? And how is your community going to help you with your other offerings in your business? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, now the fourth pricing consideration is to think about payment plans and payment structure. It's not just one price, but rather thinking about how you're going to spread that price out over months and years. I highly advise setting up payment plans and never going month to month or week to week with your membership. The issue here is that it takes people a while to start to really see the value and build up this kind of snowball effect of value from being part of an online community. You don't typically get a ton of value until you've been spending a couple of months in that community. You've connected with people, you've attended events, you've been able to be maybe matched with an accountability buddy, whatever that might entail for your community. It takes time. When they join our communities, we want people to think about making a long-term investment in their success, not just being part of something for a week or a month like a Netflix subscription. This is about investing and committing to themselves and to the larger community around them. Now, what this means is that when you're thinking about pricing, don't think about it like a monthly subscription charge. Instead, think about it as an annual subscription, and people can pay monthly with a payment plan or pay quarterly with a payment plan. But actually, these are not subscription fees during that time period. They're investments into that overall annual plan. That is what I always recommend because, again, it takes time to see true value and transformation from being inside of an online community. Now, the final pricing consideration that I want you to keep in mind is that it's best to start low and then go high over time. What you want to do is start low and then build up your price over time after you've built up your reputation and the community's reputation. Because here's the thing, it's totally okay to raise your price at any time. And it's actually very common and people are used to it. But moving backwards, number one, is very bad for optics. And number two, can cause major resentment among community members who might have paid a higher price and then you're offering a discounted version. So you're actually disincentivizing early participation. So again, start low, build up to higher. Here's an example of what can happen if you go too high. So, one client of ours recently launched a program and thought they could start out at this $5,000 per year price point. This is a very high price point for most people. And what happened was nobody was ready to pay that amount. And so they're not then able to discount that because then that makes this expensive offering look like it's very low value. And there's nowhere to go from there. If instead they had started lower and then built that up over time, there'd be room to grow and they could be testing things and figuring out if this program was actually sustainable. So how do you know when it's time to raise your price? The most important thing you can be doing in the early days is to be focusing on building up your marketing and reputation building. So build up your testimonials, your client case studies, build deep relationships with people who will advocate for the community and who will sign up even to be affiliates potentially for the community. Once you have several testimonials and great case studies and stories you can share, then you can start to think about raising your price. With all these factors in mind, now it's time to select the price for your community. Pick a price that aligns with the type of community you're building, what you're offering, and how you want to structure your payment plans. So, I just gave you the tools you need to think about pricing your community. But, and I said this at the beginning of the video, pricing is just one consideration. So I hope you feel confident about that. But you also need to understand what you're building and why you're building it and who you're building it for. Luckily, I have a totally free workshop that will walk you through how to design meaningful community experiences and programs. You can grab that video and that workshop and worksheets that go along with it at the link in the description of this YouTube video. I hope this video was valuable to you, and don't forget to let me know in the comments how your community is going to fit into your business model. How is it going to support the other offerings that you have for your business? If you like this video, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Carrie Melissa Jones. I would love to talk to you about all things community building, community management, community strategy, community. Say that 3 times fast. I invite you to screenshot yourself watching this video or screenshot where you're at on YouTube and share that on Instagram and make sure to tag me and let's talk about what you've learned from this video. All right, everybody, happy community building.